Easy people, hope everyone's doing okay. Said I would do a part 2 walk and talk for you, and here we are. So we'll start by wishing you a happy new year, because this is January the 1st 2023 in the calendar system that we are using at the moment. Now I'm going to speak about this because it's important to note that the calendar system we are using today is a relatively new concept, the Gregorian Roman calendar. It was introduced some 400 to 500 years ago by the powers that be, or the prominent powers that be of that time, the Church of England, the Roman Catholic Church, and the subsequent powers associated with two such organisations. Very, very powerful throughout our timeline of history. Prior to this, there was a different concept, a different understanding of how the calendar was registered, and it was in harmony, or more homage, to the moon and the sun, because the moon goes through 13 cycles through a year, 28 days each cycle, and if you times that, 13 times 28, you get 364. So it's very, very close to the 365 days of a year. And it is said that there was an extra day of neutrality in this old calendar system that we find in ancient cultures from India, Asia, South America, Latin America. Many cultures were using this, and even to this day in Asia they celebrate the new year, many countries in Africa also, in April. That is the beginning of the new year, spring, which, with a little bit of logical, critical thinking, you would have to say makes more sense than having a new year in the dark winter months. It would make much more sense to be in the springtime, when everything's coming back into bloom, back into life, obviously in the northern hemisphere of our plane. But this makes much more logical sense, and it is still prominent in these cultures today. With a little bit of analysis, there are some rather telling things about the Gregorian Roman calendar that we're using today. For instance, the month of September, Sept. This is 7. The month of October, Octagon. This is 8. The month of November is 9. And the month of December, decade, this is 10. But obviously today that is 9, 10, 11 and 12 months. So there's some rather interesting information still in the Gregorian Roman calendar system that we're using. Now, if we look at the month of April, which is when this new year is celebrated in Asian culture, we have an interesting day at the beginning of the month, which is Fool's Day, April Fool's Day. That is a coincidence that is rather uncanny. Many have said, is that the start of the new year? But as the old calendar was tied in with the moon cycles, I think it's fair to assume that the beginning of the new year would have been on the spring equinox, which is towards the end of the month of March. Now, to really get a viewpoint of that old calendar system, you have to scrap the system that we're using today. So if the beginning of the new year would have been on the spring equinox, then that would be the start of the brand new month, which wouldn't be around the 21st of March. You can forget those 11 days. As I said, there's a month in there that is missing, that is no longer part of the calendar system. So that would have been the beginning of the new year at the spring equinox. And this whole understanding of time, or what we call time, was really just focused on the movement of the sun and the movement of the moon, which again, with a little bit of analysis, that surely has to be the correct indication of how the seasons work with the equinoxes, the solstice, the changing of things, the year, the monthly moon cycles, as opposed to a man-made system, which is the Gregorian Roman calendar. We have months that are of different duration. We have the leap year, which is an extra day added in every 4 years. And again, it's difficult to know exactly what it would have been from ancient times, but it is understood rather, that they were using this calendar system that was focused on the moon and the sun. So anyway, whilst it is tradition to wish people a happy new year, and it is in the calendar sense that we're using today, you can't escape that. If you just stop using that calendar system, you might find yourself as the only one who's doing so. So it is the new year, so to speak. But in reality, if the movement of the sun and the moon, which is far more reliable than anything man has made up, then it isn't really the new year. But anyway, as I said at the start, I wish you a new year, happy new year. And now we can begin this walk and talk video along this beautiful stretch of coastline here in Norfolk, England, Holcombe Beach. Certainly been a strange time to be here in this earthly realm. The past couple of years, some normality has returned, but things have changed. And in the current climate, the current rhetoric that we're hearing from the news and the officials, the powers that be, it seems that perhaps the things that affected the world are making their way back into our lives at once more. This is why it's important to really give some real attention to your well-being, because all of this can become overwhelming, stressful. Life is difficult enough, and with everything else that's happening, inflation, the uncertainty around a whole range of things in people's lives, this adds to the stress. That is why it is important to really do some inward work, this inner world of ours that we all exist in. Certainly things are happening outside of us, but everything really does happen within. Our inner voice, our interpretation, our inner dialogue is running continuously. And again, it's advisable to try and quieten this down. We call it meditation. The concept of meditation doesn't necessarily have to be sitting there with your legs crossed in that pose that we perceive. Meditation could be a simple thing of going to the beach, going for a walk, going out in nature. Anything really, just switching off and trying to quieten down this inner dialogue, this inner voice, the inner world that we exist in. This is why today I went swimming in the sea. Well, not really swimming, but I put myself in the cold water because the inner dialogue is running when you're preparing to do something like that. I'm telling you not to do it, not to go into the cold water. You're not going to enjoy it. This is what our mind is like. It always chooses the safer option, so to speak. And overriding that, pushing yourself through, putting yourself into those situations is beneficial in the long run. You take out the medicinal side of things, of the endorphins, the actual mental side of things, the mental block, where we know sometimes what we should be doing, but we choose not to because it's easier perhaps. And this is all done on our subconscious inner dialogue. As I said, it's very interesting to give some attention to these kind of things because it really is almost like a hack in a way. And once you start getting control over it and you start to override it, you start to create healthy habits. You start to do things just become normal. An example might be waking up at night. How many people get in the habit of the snooze button, that dangerous snooze button that we all have pressed multiple times? That is simply our inner dialogue. Again, when the alarm goes off, what is the first thing our inner dialogue tells us? I don't want this, I'm tired, I'm cold, I can't be bothered to get out of my bed. All of the things that it's automatically running on, this inner world, this inner dialogue. But you can override that. You can simply override that with a simple instruction. And a good way to do it is count 3, 2, 1, action. Really, it is that simple. And the more you do this, the more it becomes habit, it becomes routine. Healthy habits, healthy routines. You reprogram the subconscious mind. That is truly how it works. These things that I'm sharing today, I don't want you to think that I have it all sussed out, have everything in order. Far from it. Far from it. They're just words of encouragement. I don't like to say words of advice, but words of encouragement, because anybody who has practiced this stuff will tell you the same thing, that it truly does work. Reprogramming our subconscious mind to develop healthy habits. Some more words of encouragement. Try to be present. This one is so simple, but the smartphone, as good as it is, it's opened up this world of opportunity and connection. It's also taken people's attention span, or shortened it somewhat. And with the introduction of apps like Snapchat a while back, and now we have TikTok, then the attention span of the overall population has been shortened further. Because everything now has to be bite-sized and quick, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And this has had an effect. I'm guilty of this also, as I said earlier in the video. I'm sharing with you things that I've come to realise, and when I practice them, you see how it all has taken effect on each of our lives in some capacity. And we forget to really be present. Put down the phone sometimes. Try and really be there. One thing that I find helps is reading. Is a book. The book focuses my attention and brings me to exactly where I am, but also my mind is with the book, but it's focused. It's not flicking from the next video to the next video to the next story to the next thing, which again, all these story modes on Facebook and Instagram, it's had a detrimental effect on society as a whole. So trying to focus for longer periods, trying to really be present. Like just earlier, as I said, the beach is a fantastic place to ground yourself in that moment. I just sat and looked out at the waves for, it must have only been 15 minutes maximum. But just sitting there, the sounds, the visual, quieting down my inner dialogue. Again, your mind wanders off, but you just keep bringing it back, and it starts to improve, starts to get longer, the duration that you're there and you're quiet. And again, after doing things like this, you're just so calm, blissful. And again, it doesn't mean that you're not aware of things going on in the world. There are many, many things that we should be aware of and need to be aware of. But there is a saying that you can worry yourself sick, and I truly do believe that. We can worry ourselves sick with all of the uncertainty, all of the things going on in the world. And this is why it's really important to give attention, as I said at the start, give attention to this inner world. Take care of our well-being. That is my words of encouragement, because I don't want to say words of advice. It makes it sound like you've got it all sussed out when it's far from it. Far, far from it. Anyway, let me give you another spin around of this place. Beautiful settings. Just beautiful. Just come a little closer to the water right now, because just that sound does something for me anyway, really. Would love to be closer to the beach on a regular basis. And today, seeing all these dog walkers. Dogs are an interesting animal. We are a nation of dog lovers, that is for certain. But they're an interesting animal. They can be stupid, totally stupid. At the same time, they're highly intelligent. And one of their traits I really admire that we can learn from is really being present in the moment. They live for the moment, they live for the walk, they live for the running of that ball, fetch, belly rub, you know. They live purely for the moment. And that is something that we can learn a lot from. Doesn't mean to say, take that saying YOLO. I don't like that. You only live once, so therefore do everything, do anything, be crazy and wild. In that respect, I do agree with you should push the boundaries and do some crazy things from time to time. Get out of your comfort zone, certainly. But not at the price of your health. You can enjoy yourself. I'm not going to be a killjoy and say, don't do this, this and this. Everybody is free to live their life how they choose, how they wish to. But your health really is number one. And taking care of health requires some discipline in some capacity. And with many, many things that we perceive as enjoyable, or how we spend our downtime, this has a detrimental effect to our health, to our well-being. I'm not going to dwell on these things too long because I don't want to come across preachy in this video. Far from it, again, as I've said. Just words of encouragement, really. Just words of encouragement. It is perceived as the first day of the new year. I'm here, enjoying the time. I thought I would make a video and walk and talk and just, yeah, words of encouragement for overall well-being. That's the whole point of this video. With some information at the start about the Gregorian Roman calendar. Anyway, I think this seems a pretty good place to wrap this up, unless I can think of some other things to add in as I'm walking along here, because I'm going all the way to the end. No intention of heading back down the way just yet. Quite far off came. It's just gorgeous, you can just keep walking. This goes on for miles. As I said, it's a truly spectacular stretch of coastline here in Norfolk, England. We do have some pretty special places actually in the UK, but the only thing that we do lack in, as we all know, is the guaranteed sunshine. But today's been good. Today it's been good, it's been dry. There it is, the wonderful sun. Yeah, can't complain, can't complain. But anyway, we'll wrap this up. I'll give you the sound of the waves to take you away. And as I said, words of encouragement. Take care of yourselves, look after one another, stay blessed, try and count your blessings. Go inward, as they say. And always remember, life is beautiful.